Climate change refugees, coastal communities at risk. Climate change refugees, coastal communities at risk. The effects of climate change are no longer distant projections, they are rapidly becoming a harsh reality that demands our attention and action. Among the most vulnerable groups are the coastal communities, whose very existence is threatened by rising sea levels, intensified storms, and changing weather patterns. The looming crisis: coastal vulnerability. Coastal communities have long thrived due to their proximity to the ocean, which has provided sustenance, livelihoods, and cultural identity. However, this proximity has now become a double-edged sword as the sea levels steadily rise due to global warming. The consequences are increasingly evident: more frequent and severe coastal flooding, erosion of shorelines, and a heightened risk of devastating storm surges. According to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, global sea levels have risen by about 8 to 9 inches, 20 to 23 centimeters, since the late 19th century, and this rate is accelerating. Projections indicate that by the end of this century, sea levels could rise by an additional 1 to 4 feet, 0,3 to 1,2 meters. This might not sound drastic, but for coastal communities that are already struggling, these incremental changes can be catastrophic. Loss of livelihoods, impact on coastal economies. One of the most pressing challenges for these communities is the loss of livelihoods. Many coastal residents rely on fishing, tourism, and agriculture for their income. Rising sea levels and changing ocean temperatures disrupt fish populations and coral reefs, affecting fishing industries. The agricultural sector is not immune to these changes either. Saltwater intrusion, a consequence of rising sea levels, can contaminate freshwater sources and make fertile land unsuitable for farming. As a result, communities that have relied on agriculture for generations are forced to abandon their ancestral lands, upending their traditional ways of life. Cultural disintegration, the erosion of identity. Beyond economic consequences, the erosion of cultural identity is another heart-wrenching aspect of the climate change crisis. Many coastal communities have deep-rooted traditions, practices, and knowledge systems that are intrinsically tied to their natural surroundings. As rising sea levels force people to migrate inland, these communities risk losing not only their physical homes but also their connections to their ancestral lands and cultural heritage. Furthermore, indigenous populations that have lived harmoniously with coastal ecosystems for centuries find themselves grappling with the environmental upheaval brought on by climate change. The role of governments and international cooperation. Addressing the challenges faced by climate change refugees requires a coordinated effort on a global scale. Governments play a pivotal role in providing assistance, planning for resettlement, and developing policies that consider the needs of displaced communities. Efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions are equally crucial. Mitigating the causes of climate change is vital to preventing the displacement of coastal communities and to preserving the integrity of the planet's ecosystems. Innovative solutions, adapting to a changing environment. While the challenges are immense, there are innovative solutions emerging that offer hope to coastal communities at risk. Managed retreat, for instance, involves the planned relocation of communities away from high-risk coastal areas. This approach, though complex and emotionally taxing, can help preserve lives, livelihoods, and cultural heritage in the face of rising sea levels. Investments in sustainable infrastructure can also enhance the resilience of coastal communities. Building homes on stilts, restoring natural buffers like mangroves, and constructing seawalls are examples of measures that can protect these communities from the immediate impacts of climate change. However, Such solutions need to be implemented with careful consideration of potential unintended consequences, such as altering ecosystems or exacerbating inequalities. A call to action: protecting the most vulnerable. The plight of climate change refugees demands a shift in the way we perceive and respond to the global climate crisis. It is not merely an environmental issue but a humanitarian one. As the effects of climate change continue to accelerate, we must remember that behind every statistic is a community facing an uncertain future. At its core, the crisis of climate change refugees is a reminder of the interconnectedness of our world. As we work to combat climate change, let us also work to ensure that no one is left behind in the wake of its devastating effects. Education and awareness: empowering communities. In the face of such challenges, education and awareness emerge as powerful tools to empower coastal communities. Knowledge about climate change, its impacts, and potential adaptation strategies can equip individuals and communities to make informed decisions about their future. Educational initiatives should be designed not only to inform but also to foster a sense of agency among residents, encouraging them to actively participate in resilience-building efforts. Local and indigenous knowledge must be respected and integrated into adaptation plans. These communities possess valuable insights about their environments and have developed strategies over generations to adapt to changing conditions. Collaborating with local experts can lead to innovative solutions that might otherwise be overlooked. Private sector engagement, beyond profit. The private sector also has a significant role to play in addressing the challenges faced by coastal communities. Instead of solely focusing on profit, businesses can adopt environmentally conscious practices and invest in initiatives that support vulnerable communities. This could involve funding research, contributing to sustainable infrastructure projects, or even offering job opportunities to displaced individuals. Collaborations between governments, nonprofit organizations, and businesses can lead to synergistic efforts that create lasting change. A global responsibility. While the immediate impacts of climate change disproportionately affect coastal communities, the consequences extend far beyond their borders. This underscores the fact that addressing climate change refugees is not just a matter of moral responsibility but a global imperative. Developed nations, historically responsible for a significant portion of greenhouse gas emissions, must contribute to both mitigation efforts and providing support for vulnerable communities. This could involve funding adaptation projects, sharing technology and expertise, and providing humanitarian aid to those displaced. Conclusion: a call to protect our shared future. The challenges posed by climate change refugees in coastal communities demand swift and decisive action.